Renly Baratheon is dead, and tonight's special guest did not kill him. We have Jane Espenson, and this is Stupid for Game of Thrones. All right! Woo! Woo! I feel stupid.
And welcome to Stupid for Game of Thrones. As always, my name is Sarah Penna with my co-host Bob Jennings, aka Bob Jens.
Hello.
Please remember to subscribe and like us on Facebook so you can see our beautiful faces every week, giving you updates on our favorite show, Game of Thrones. This week we have Jane Espenson, as Bob said. We are very, very excited to have her
Writer
here.
extraordinaire. Kind of like ridiculous credits. Not only did she write the episode last year, which was called A Golden Crown.
One of our favorite
episodes ever.
Absolutely.
But she's written for Buffy and Firefly and
Battlestar
Galactica, which I love that show. Ridiculous kind of nerd for that show as well. We're really excited to have her here.
She's also currently working on Once Upon a Time, and she has a hit web series, Husbands.
Super hit web series.
I don't know if you want to cut to. Here we go. And we'll talk more about that when she gets here.
In the show.
Later in the show.
But we want to talk about Game of Thrones.
Yes.
So, wait. There's a rising.
Time for the news.
Oh, time for the Game of Thrones news. And what happened this week? Well, a lot of things happened this week. First of all, let's talk about the ratings from last week. Game of Thrones won the Sunday night cable ratings last week, which is kind of incredible considering it's paid HBO. Got a little round of applause for that.
Yeah.
The numbers are 3.65
million people. That is pretty impressive.
Even beat out Mad Men, which I also love that show, but suck it, Draper.
We love it, but there's no beheadings, there's no incest, there's no crazy sex.
Because we all love incest.
I mean, come on, Mad Men.
Well, that's all right. Oh, wait, and this is Nihizo. If you guys remember from last week, we had Nihizo. N-H-I-Z-O.
That's his Dothraki name.
Oh, but we had a little contest going in YouTube as well.
Oh. Well, that's right.
Until my mic's off.
Oh.
It's on.
We're talking to some guy just wandered in.
I'm just yell a little bit.
He's a little drunk. I don't know.
I thought we had a contest on YouTube also.
Well, until that one wins with Nihizo.
So right now in the
comments below, if you can beat that name, feel free.
Okay. Also this week we had South Park. Does a little homage to Game of Thrones. In last week's episode, Cartman Finds Love. Mr. Garrison gives a detailed lecture on the history of the houses of Westeros. We got a graphic here. Is it up there? Yeah, there it is.
Yep.
And as you can see, they've circled the Night's Watch and
Lannister, and there's a lot going on there.
There's probably
I
some
didn't
mention
see
of
it, but I
incest.
can't wait to go find it and watch it. Kind of reminds me of that guest we had, Steve Atwell. Hopefully he'll be back, but the historical kind of.
In fact, Steve Atwell might be back next week.
Hopefully, we hope.
So. Very informative young gentleman.
Yes.
We've also got. Why don't you do this last one here?
There's also a little something that our producer Elaine found on YouTube, which we thought was really funny. We're going to show you. It is Tyrion and Bronn as a buddy movie. So
Are we
roll
rolling that
the
in?
clip.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Meet Bronn.
You need a woman? Nothing like a woman after a fight.
He's a sword for hire who will only fight if the money is right. Meet Tyrion.
Already?
He's a wealthy dwarf with a big mouth
I once brought a jackass and a honeycomb into a brothel.
who just got himself into a heap of trouble. They don't like each other much.
What do you want, Bronn? Gold? Women? Golden women?
But they couldn't need each other more. They'll have to get along.
I'm not your toady, and I'm not your friend.
Mainly interested in your facility with murder.
Even if it kills them.
How would you like to die?
With a belly full of wine and a girl's mouth around my...
In a world of dire wolves and lions, sometimes the rarest creature is a friend.
I'll stand for the dwarf. You killed your first man before you were 12. It was a woman. She swung an axe at me.
From the people who brought you the best little whorehouse in King's Landing comes 1.5 Man. In the Game of Thrones, they're playing as a team.
Stay low. Stay low.
Coming soon just like winter.
And that's it for the news for this week. We will put a link in the description below for that video, so check it out.
It was really cool. I laughed a lot.
And now on to crowning moments.
Crowning moments!
Ching! Okay, we're going to go through these really quick, and then we're going to talk about our favorite ones. So here we go. Number 1, Renly gets killed. I think that's an obvious one.
I missed that part.
Yeah.
No,
He went to the bathroom. No.
Yeah.
Renly gets killed. Okay, Stannis and Davos have a conversation where Stannis basically says, we're going to King's Landing. This is it. This is the moment. We have all of Renly's bannermen. Here we go. Tyrion discovers that Cersei has been having the pyromancers create wildfire, which is this magical green substance that burns and melts people's flesh.
And stone and metal.
And everything.
Yeah.
It's horrible stuff if you're on the wrong side of it. So next moment was Brienne swears fealty to Catelyn. Jaqen kills the tickler for Arya, one of 3 people who he's going to kill. So I assume we're going to be looking for 2 more people. Zaro proposes to Daenerys, and she considers it. And Torrhen Square goes under siege.
All right, let's start it over again and talk about each one.
Okay.
Renly.
I think Renly is the big. I think Renly was trending worldwide. It's a huge moment.
Which is just to say, there's obviously a lot of people watching this show now, and with the numbers, like we're saying, almost 4 million people last week, people who haven't read the books. So if it's trending, that I think people who have read the books are still pushing it, and it's fun to see.
Yeah.
For you and I, everyone who watches this show knows that we actually have read the books. How'd you think it turned out?
We knew that it was coming. Yeah. Obviously, the shadow baby was birthed at the very end of last.
But the way you read it and then when you saw it on screen.
Yeah, no, I thought, of course, I thought they did a great job.
I was blown away.
I want to complain, but I can't.
No, we watched the show with the producers and the crew and everybody together before the show, and I literally, I don't know if you guys were looking at me, but I was like doing this.
Yeah, I was like, we know it's coming.
They had the big wide shot. You know that wide shot where it's like, the rule of thirds. Everybody's on one side of the screen like, something's coming there. Something is coming at me. And it was awesome. And totally.
I was totally on the edge of my seat too, just like.
I could feel something was coming.
Ooh, I know, because we were all like tense, like, what's gonna happen? And
absolutely.
Just that feeling of, the guards come in and immediately they're like, Brienne did it. There's no other explanation.
Right.
Because it is this mystical thing. They don't even really understand what happened.
And then she rolls through the other Kingsguard like butter.
Yeah, she just takes them all out, so now she doesn't really have any option but to flee.
Yeah, I guess you couldn't say, no, there was a thing, and probably wouldn't have.
You guys totally missed this,
this cloud
Stannis
thing,
black
evil
baby thing, the cloud. It was no, you want to fight? Okay.
Yeah, but Brienne doesn't even believe it herself.
Yeah.
She's like, I think Stannis was in here.
Right.
But, obviously he wasn't. It was the shadow baby, which we all know, and she wants to stay. But Catelyn's like, if you want revenge, you have to flee. You have to go, which kind of implicates her a little further, right? Like, why are you running if you didn't do anything wrong?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm like, can't they just go, hey, hold on? But I guess they could.
But you can't, because no one's going to believe you.
I had to kill them because they wouldn't listen to me, but will you guys listen? Yeah, I guess they really can't do that.
They're just going to, they would just kill her.
It's not really going to work.
So that's a big moment.
It was one of the biggest moments, even, in the books and stuff. And, what's fun for me is last year, I love that they talk about all the super fantastic elements, and most of the people in the world don't believe that magic or dragons and these things exist, but the viewers let in on this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's 2 weeks in a row. Obviously, they're chained events, with the birthing of this monster.
Yeah.
And the execution.
So now it's interesting too. So with Renly out, it's really Stannis who's making the biggest play, and Daenerys is she's still really far away.
Right.
But Robb doesn't want the Iron Throne. He just wants to be King of the North. So and they were getting close to.
Interesting that they had the deal with Catelyn.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, he doesn't want it. Cool, you can swear me fealty. You guys can go back and have the North.
That makes
it's pretty much a done deal.
It makes it even more heartbreaking that Renly dies, because you're kind of like, okay, Robb has this real opportunity here to join forces. He gets what he wants. He puts Renly on the throne, and it could have been this sort of.
That's
perfect.
when you knew. I was like, oh, that's a perfect round. Something's gonna go wrong.
Yeah.
It's
too
easy.
good.
Absolutely.
It's too perfect. So he's out. So it's really just Stannis now and Robb who are
Yeah,
or
you know, Mike makes a good point. Like, anytime that something's about to make perfect logical sense, like, oh, that would totally. Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
They're
Oh.
setting it up for
Yeah.
massive carnage.
Fiction.
Yes.
It's gonna kill
Oh,
it right now.
fiction.
We're gonna throw
All right, what's the
something
next point?
So that I mean, we kind of talked about it already,
Mm-hmm.
but that Stannis is making he's declaring, okay, we are going with ships, and as you know,
More ships, more men.
more ships, more men. He has all the bannermen from Renly.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna leave Melisandre at home because
Mm-hmm.
Davos is like, she's gonna take over. You don't want to win the Iron Throne just to lose it to her. She's
Right.
gonna take all the credit, and with her Lord of Light and all of this stuff. And you know, that relates to, you know, everyone's preparing. They know that he has all the ships and that he's going to make this play for King's Landing at King's Landing. So that's, you know, the wildfire, they're kind of preparing for battle here.
I liked the wildfire scene between the pyromancer. It's a fancy word for a guy who plays with fire. and Tyrion and Bronn. And Bronn is just killing every scene this year.
Yeah, he's
And
like,
the guy-
no.
The lines are hilarious.
I don't believe you.
In fact, you know, and maybe we can get a chance to talk about some lines when we get through some of these points. But I
Yeah,
wrote
we'll
down
talk
about
about 'em now. That's-
10 lines tonight that were just ridiculous. Demon monkey.
Yeah, that's a great scene too. So you're starting to see that the love for the Lannisters in King's Landing,
Even in King's Landing,
in
yeah.
Flea Bottom, people are making fun of them. They realize that they're saying, you know, okay, they're coming out and saying Jaime and Cersei did have Joffrey, and he's a rotten fruit of their
Right.
evil ways.
And he's like, demon monkey. He's like, you got to give him credit for being creative. He's like, they're talking about you. You know?
So that was, yeah.
I love that.
Things are getting really tense now. You know, wars are about to start happening. Everyone's been sort of gathering their bannermen, but people are starting to die. Kings are getting, you know, thrown out of the running, and
Killed by magic.
Winterfell, and you know, the North is starting to go under siege. So
Oh, are they?
no, the Torn
I'm just
Square.
kidding.
Yes.
Yes, here comes Pike.
Yeah.
Gonna take the North. Look out. And Bran had that dream.
Yes.
The
The
dream
sea.
at the sea. It's a metaphor, guys. It's a metaphor for people. It is.
What?
You guys, look it up.
You're
It's
so
awesome.
clever.
Wait, what was that great? Like, what was that great line that Tyrion had when Cersei's yelling at him, and she says, "Your schemes and plots."
Oh yeah. And
schemes and plots are the same thing.
yes, that was really good. And I also love that scene with Tyrion in the with what's his name, Lancel.
With Lance.
Yeah, and he's like, even torturing you is boring.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Where he's, you know, Lancel has become his kind of mole.
His
with Cersei.
biatch.
Yeah. So there were some great scenes, and then Daenerys, you know, she's alive. She's kind of this, you know.
Looking a little hotter this week. You know, the
Yeah.
desert cracked lip look.
Yeah.
Wasn't doing a lot for me. But you know.
And we get to see the dragons this episode. That
Absolutely.
was fantastic.
Little budget thrown into the show. Love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that was great. So, so I think a lot of great moments.
Mm-hmm.
You know, really setting it up for some crazy stuff to happen next episode. And you know, I think maybe we could talk about everyone who got killed. So let's go
do it.
to head count.
Head count, people. Aw, there's Ned Stark on a stake again. Poor Nettie.
Always remember.
Yeah. So obviously the big death obviously is Renly. It's one of the biggest deaths of the series, obviously to date. And then the 4 guys who just get housed by Brienne. And then after that,
The Tickler.
Oh yeah, the Tickler.
I love that Jaqen is just sitting there in the, you know, in the upper reaches after he falls to the ground. He's just eating
And
an
he just
apple,
goes like this.
and he's just like,
Now, why
He didn't wink, though.
would you have picked the Tickler first?
yeah.
Seemed like she's got a
Why
lot
did
more
you
people.
just say, you know, Cersei?
Seems like she's got a lot more people.
I
she
think
wants.
she didn't realize that. I mean, I think she
you
was
get
like,
3 wishes.
fine.
Yeah, think them through.
yeah,
'Cause she always,
Yeah.
she like 2 episodes ago, 1 episode, she had that whole mantra of who she wanted to kill.
yeah.
Right.
But he was in there.
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I mean, he's probably the closest threat.
Right.
Because if he gets a hold of her and he decides he wants to torture her, he's kind of the most immediate threat.
Right,
so
okay.
I think that it,
Logical person.
especially for like a
Plus the fact
17-year-old
it's easy
girl,
because
you know,
it's easy because he's there. He's in the
Right.
scene with
Yeah.
the. He lives
She-
in that.
if she
city.
said Cersei, you know, maybe
would have to
I don't
escape.
know. I don't know.
Because you know the
So
last one's gonna be Joffrey. I haven't read the book, so I don't know. But obviously that's what you're hoping. I like the stone-faced people who read
What?
the book.
Okay,
This
next
is good. This is good. Because we have a
Um,
lot of people in the chat room going, I refuse to read the books. I'm reading that right now. Like, you know, we always have this every week. But Sin Fry in the Ustream chat room is talking about that right now. How read the book, started the second, but put it down because I didn't want to spoil how much I love the show.
That's interesting. It's for me. I liked reading the books first because I feel like I get an enhanced appreciation for the things that have to be naturally left out, just because the lengthy descriptions of things like the Silent Sisters, like their real jobs. I don't know. Like there's just it enhances my appreciation.
I can understand where it's coming from.
I can get it if you do it the other way. Like you don't want.
I watched the first season without reading the books, and then I read the books every other book, leading up to this season, and I can say without even question, I'm enjoying this season even more because I read the books.
Yeah, exactly.
So to each their own.
Yeah.
So that it for dead people.
That's it. That's the only people who die. But a big death.
There's never enough.
Fantastic. We'll do you have any questions from the chat room, or should we?
We got questions waiting for Jane from the
Okay,
chat.
well, let's do it. Let's do our interview. But before that, just to refresh your memory, we are going to play the trailer for the episode that Jane wrote, A Golden Crown, one of my favorite episodes.
One of mine as well.
So good. So much happened. I can't wait to talk about it again.
Crown for King.
So let's roll that, and we will. When we come back, we will have Jane here ready to take your questions.
Woo!
Attacked one of my brothers and abducted the other.
Tell your wife to return that little shit of an imp to King's Landing.
What about Jaime Lannister?
I'm half a kingdom in debt to his bloody father.
We'll talk when I return from the hunt.
The hunt?
You'll have to sit on the throne while I'm away.
You are accused of hiring a man to slay my son, Bran, in his bed.
I demand combat.
You have that right.
Do I have a volunteer? I'll stand for the dwarf.
Grand Maester Pycelle, send a raven to Casterly Rock. Inform Tywin Lannister that he has been summoned to court to answer for the crimes of Gregor Clegane, or be branded an enemy of the crown and a traitor to the realm.
I'm sending you both back to Winterfell.
What? I'm supposed to marry Prince Joffrey. He'll be the greatest king that ever was, a golden lion, and I'll give him sons with beautiful blonde hair.
Lord Orys Baratheon, black of hair. Axel Baratheon, black of hair. Robert Baratheon, black of hair. Joffrey Baratheon, golden head.
I want what I came for. I want the crown he promised me.
Ah! No! Daddy, please!
Crown for King.
Fire cannot kill a dragon.
That clip that just ended was awesome. And we have the writer of that episode, Jane Espenson. Welcome to Stupid for Game of Thrones.
Thank you so
much for being here.
Thank you.
I'm really happy to have. I mean, you have such an impressive writing background, and this episode, we've said it a couple of times already in the show, but really one of the most amazing ones from last season. There were so many iconic moments. What was it like to write? I mean, there was, Ned Stark finding out who Joffrey's, his real lineage, Viserys getting the Golden Crown, which of course kills him, Bronn, standing up for Tyrion and saving his life, and sort of Catelyn and Lisa's realization that, we kind of messed this one up. And then, of course, Daenerys eating the horse's heart, which is...
wondered if you were going to mention that.
Of course, one of the most challenging and amazing and powerful scenes, I think, of the whole season. I mean, it's just so... I keep wondering what prop they used for that. I mean, it was...
Yeah, what would you do to simulate a horse heart?
I mean, it's like Jell-O is too soft. It's so tough. And bloody. I don't know. So, anyways, what was your favorite scene to write? What was the most difficult? Do you want to just talk about a little bit about?
For one thing, it was amazing fun. If anyone ever gets a chance to write a freelance episode of Game of Thrones, do it.
Oh, sure.
I keep getting that mailer in the mail, and it's like, do you want to write for Game of Thrones? I'm like, oh, I'm busy.
I wasn't sure if I should do it or not.
You got this show, you got no time.
All right.
Exactly.
It was really fun, and I came in and they said, you're going to write like this piece to this piece, and their thought was like, oh my God, I can't believe we're giving you the piece with the Golden Crown. And my thought was like, oh my God, I can't believe I get the part with the heart eating.
Yeah.
Because for me, that was like, the Golden Crown is amazing. But for me, there was something so visceral, I was going to say, but that could apply to Viserys.
Yes, I know. I was going to say, I caught myself saying it too.
The writer's brain, always working.
But yeah, just that image of this little girl eating this big horse heart. I just thought
she can't throw up, right? So
she's she's got to keep it down.
As a viewer, I was kind of holding my stomach too, like, oh my God, how I would throw up just at first.
I particularly love the exchange in that episode after she's done of Jorah Mormont looking at her, and for the first time, she truly is a queen today. And then Viserys is like, oh man, I am stealing me some dragon eggs.
There are a lot of turning moments, right? So there's that where Daenerys really turns into Khaleesi. There's the moment of Robb Stark and Theon in the woods where you really start seeing there's a little bit of tension there, and that relates back.
What episode number was it? Was it 4?
6.
6. So it's right after halfway point, right? Of the season. It was 10 episodes.
So you were brought on as a freelance writer. For all the kind of aspiring writers out there, how does that work? How does one do that? I mean, obviously you have an impressive resume, so.
Yeah, first get an impressive resume.
Okay, all right. Number 1.
That totally helped. I think the plan was for David and DB to write it all themselves.
Right.
And then I think they sort of were like, well, of course, George will write one, because yow.
Right.
Brian, who was the writer's assistant at the time, got to write one. And I've never known what made them bring in one more person, one more freelance entity to come in and write one episode. But I was called in.
I think the stuff that you've written, Buffy and Battlestar and Firefly, like it has not a similar tone, but a similar kind of fan base, I would think, and people can really, Battlestar is similar, like it appeals to a mass audience. It's not just for super nerds, although they can enjoy it as well. So I think that maybe makes sense for.
I've got to think it was the Battlestar, because I don't think you look at Buffy and go, oh, it's so like Game of Thrones.
Right? No, not at all.
So I've got to think it was Battlestar, which had that similar darkness, but with little glimmers of humor, and that similar complexity, serialized. Like I think there was a lot of overlap that made someone at HBO. I think it was someone at HBO. That's what I've been assuming. Say like, look at her, bring her in.
Oftentimes they I guess you have a reputation for maybe some strong female characters,
Right.
And that's a big episode, as Sarah was pointing out, for
but they
Danny.
all are. Yeah,
Danny in particular,
right.
that is the changing of her life in that
Right,
episode.
that's true. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why I got that one, because I never understood why they would give the freelancer this plum episode with all those great scenes that you referenced.
Yeah.
Sure.
So huge. But it didn't have any Arya when I got it. She just wasn't in that chunk of the book. And so I was like, I think we need to see an Arya training thing. So if I can point
love
at
that
any
scene.
one thing that I contributed to that episode, because there's always a lot of rewriting. So the Theon moment, the Theon Robb moment that you talk about, I don't think that was in my draft. Certainly it didn't have the weight that they gave it. There are other things that they changed and rewrote. I mean, they're really good, and they get in there. And as you would with any freelance script, you change stuff. But the fact that Arya had that scene in there, I could point at that and go like, that was me.
That's great, and I love that scene too. That's when she learns, to say, not today, death.
Right.
Kind of,
right.
She's in a really bad mood. She's really concerned about what's going on. I think as a little kid, she's starting to sense that there's some really bad stuff, and Jory gets killed, and she's really upset about that. And he kind of tells her, this is the time to train. So
that may not have all been in the draft of the scene that I had, but I had her training.
Were you a big fan when you get hired, and did you know the show, or how do you go into a show as a freelancer? How do you catch up in knowing and understanding the books and the characters, and how do they prep you for that?
If I recall the sequence of events, it was you've got a meeting that will in all probability result in you getting a script. Go read the book. Right. And I was in an airport when I got that call. I was like 10 feet from an airport bookstore. I went in like, is there any chance that an airport bookstore will have it? Well, this happened to be a very extensive airport bookstore, and they had it. I was able to buy it in the moment, read it on the plane wherever I was going. By the time I went to the meeting a couple days later, I knew book one.
Sorry.
And I didn't read beyond book one. I sort of felt that, for one thing, it was time to write the episode. So it's like, do I spend these precious hours working on the script or reading ahead? And I rationalized it as like, I don't want to know more than what's going to happen this season. I don't want to accidentally foreshadow something that I don't want the audience tipping to yet.
Right.
It's probably good that I only read one. Afterwards, I read the rest, and in reading the rest, I was like, no, it would have been good. It would. The more knowledge is always better. More knowledge is always better, America.
The more you know.
The more you know. And I ended up wishing that I had read the rest, because it would have, the Theon Robb scene that I didn't put that weight on, I would have known to put the weight.
Well, that's exactly why they plugged it probably in. And as you can see that storyline happening now in this season, that's where Theon's really struggling. When I saw that scene the first time, I didn't realize, Rob's kind of being a dick.
Yeah, I did too. I was kind of like, what is his deal?
He just saved their life. But then you see that's why it's there. Oh, drama.
Absolutely. It's in a way that every show should be done this way. There should be so much of writing is rewriting, as has been said before, that anytime you can get a rough draft down and then go through and lay in all the little connections and stuff, now that you know for sure where the story is going, things get better. In a way, they have the perfect opportunity here. They have a book in which events that happen, or a series of books in which events that happen in book 4, say, didn't maybe get set up in book 1 the way George R.R. Martin, a brilliant writer, would have if he'd known exactly for certain where he was going. Now these guys get a chance to go through and do that work. Just say, here's a thing in book 1 that just put a little seed in your mind, because 4 years from now this is going to be important. And what a wonderful gift to any writer.
It's amazing. And I love watching how they adapt it for television, and sometimes where they combine a character. Or,
they do such a great job at that.
Even the stuff they leave out is artistry.
Right,
You know what I mean? It really can be this like, wow, that's really clever to not focus on that, and then make sure you focus on some really creative decisions they made this year so far.
I thought in particular in season 1, the laying in of the dragon eggs, I thought, was done with a little more weight than it was in the book.
Oh, absolutely.
And,
well, that's what you get out of the visual medium.
Exactly.
You show it rather than just sort of, and Danny was hugging the legs. You can't really say that.
Well, I found myself, kind of, again, once
a sense of foreboding the whole
season. Exactly. So, Bob and I both work in online content creation, so it's always very fun and exciting for us when people who have such an impressive resume decide to, dig in and go do a web series. So
you must be talking about husbands.
I am.
Hold that up. Get a close up on that.
Look.
This is. Oh, do I get a close up?
Yeah.
Shoving it
There
in
you
camera.
Wait, it's not close enough, Jane.
Husbandsoftheseries.com.
Yeah. Link in the. We have a link, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll put a link. And so
Thank you.
you just did an
Husbandsoftheseries.com.
you just did an extremely successful Kickstarter campaign. So congratulations! What
That's awesome.
Thank you.
What a great way of raising money and
I love
having
it when people
community
get money on
participate.
Kickstarter.
I do too. I've raised money on Kickstarter for projects.
Fantastic.
It's
It's
really
a way
amazing.
for the audience really is our network on this, and the audience renewed us for season 2. So
That's crazy.
we're out there. We're deep in pre-production now. We are writing and casting. We've got our location. We've got a table read scheduled. Like we know when it's going to be. It's very soon.
That's so
and
great.
yeah, we've got amazing guest stars coming up. It's really taking shape, and it's so much more ambitious because we did the Kickstarter. We're able to be a lot more ambitious than we were in season 1. We're going to use this new Scarlet cameras. We're going to,
Cool.
everything's going to be much schmancier than season 1.
That's fantastic. And also with Kickstarter, because people donate, they're invested and they're going to promote it. And I just love that.
That would be nice of them, but I feel like they've already given us so much.
Yeah. So when can do you have a date set or around when can we expect season 2?
This summer.
This summer.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
we are currently debating among ourselves, among the team, do we premiere it at Comic-Con, which is like the great big wonderful place, but it can be lost in the mix, or do we hold on to it another month and premiere it at DragonCon?
I think Mike has a opinion.
DragonCon fans here.
You know what you do?
DragonCon seems like
You
the place
tease
to
it at
go,
Comic-Con and say,
like,
hey,
Come
if
to
you
the-
happen to be at DragonCon.
The problem with DragonCon is it could get lost in the mix of all the fall TV premieres that are coming up.
Right.
All the TV critics will be busy already writing about that. You sort of hit a lull spot if you do it at Comic-Con, but then again, Comic-Con is a much more, it's such a huge place that you'd end up scheduling a panel. It might be opposite. God knows what 20 other wonderful events. So.
The entire cast of Prometheus just showed up.
Right, exactly.
Oh, cool.
So we are debating that, but we will have product by then. We will have it cut and ready to go. So
Awesome.
That's very exciting.
every time I make a declarative statement like that, though, I feel this little bubble of panic because it's
know,
like, unless there's a massive earthquake that hits, or a meteor hits the mansion or something, it's like, so how can I say definitively?
Well, that's the great thing about the web is, you get to
99%.
choose, and you can say things and take it back.
Really? I thought the thing about the web was that everything you say lives forever, and you can never take anything
Well,
back.
you
Well,
can
just tweet that it'll be up.
manipulate it. Yeah, you can tweet
It was
over
supposed to be out today, but I was drunk last night. And couldn't see it.
Trust me, we've all said things and it
For those of you who haven't seen the first season of it, though, why don't you give us a little synopsis of the show?
Yeah, it's a combination of the most classic TV premise and something that's very, very new. This is about 2 young guys who've been dating for like 6 weeks. A big marriage equality law passes. They go to Las Vegas. They wake up drunk married, and they don't want to be a big high-profile divorce. I mean, they've already done enough damage. It's all out in the news of this high-profile drunk marriage, and now they're like, now we have to look at like we meant it. We have to like make this marriage work. And then in classic romantic comedy style, they discover that they are this fantastic team, and it stars Cheeks, Brad Bell, who's also the co-creator and co-writer with me. Who's amazing. Hey, Cheeks, I hope you're watching. And Sean Hamian as Brady, and Alessandra Torresani from Caprica as Haley.
Caprica, another show you wrote on.
Yeah, worked on Haley.
And then currently you're also working on Once Upon. You've written 5 episodes.
5.5 episodes
5.5.
of Once Upon a Time.
Fantastic.
And you have a continuing role in the show as well.
Well, yeah, I'm a writer on the show.
Oh, just
And
okay.
you're
Because we
also
have
a
another
consulting producer?
Consulting producer.
Consulting producer is the title that a writer gets when they are at a certain level. Yeah, writers, you have when you see the title story editor, executive story editor, co-producer, producer, supervising producer, consulting producer, co-executive producer, those are all just titles for writers.
Just titles for writers who are getting tacked on because you've earned an extra pay bump.
Exactly.
There you go.
That's what it is.
All right,
She's earned it.
That's That's what you got to aspire
It's all about
to.
the credits, kids.
Do
It's
you
all
get
about
to
the
go to
credits.
set? Like, did you get to go to set on Game of Thrones? I know that was a little far away, but
No, because really, as a freelancer, your work is done when you hand in that script.
So you don't know what the heart was made of.
No, I have no idea.
All right, so we can be in touch with people. We need to.
Does the audience have any guesses? What do you guys think it was made of? Because it was
Below.
not
We have a ton of questions, I imagine, for Jane. I have one question myself.
Okay.
First, before,
Yeah.
because you didn't, 'cause it's kind of like off not being able to actually go and see it because you've already done your job. So it must be incredibly exciting, though, when you know that episode is airing that night.
Yeah.
And you're seeing an incredible cast.
Right.
And particularly Peter Dinklage, who just tore it up last season.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I knew
he was so good in this episode too.
So what's that like when you see it? Is it just super exciting?
It's super exciting. Yeah, a show like this. I haven't really had a show before that is, I mean, I've been on cult shows, but HBO has, this certain cachet that makes it masterpiece theater classy.
Right.
Like I haven't been on a show that is perceived in the way Game of Thrones is before. In the same way that at Once Upon a Time, I haven't been on a show before that is a mainstream network hit. So both of those have these sort of almost complementary appeals, but appeals beyond what I've done before. I mean, Buffy had a different thing, which was the niche program that takes off and makes a network. So that had its own thing. So every show I do, there's always a different way in which it's special to me.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Fun fact, just bought the entire series of Buffy for my niece, who's 12.
Oh, that's perfect.
And she is loving it.
Perfect.
Yeah, we just started in on Firefly, so I'm really enjoying it so far.
I'm sort of a nerd for Firefly.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's really fun.
12 is so smart because seasons 1 and 2 are just fantastic. 12-year-old will love. Like maybe she waits and watches season 3 when she's 13. Depending on
my
how
sister, her
mature
mom,
she
wants
is.
to watch it too. So
Okay.
that's she's like, get Sophie the series for Buffy for Christmas. I'm like, you sure it's not for you? No, it's not for me. Anyways, we should take some questions from the people actually watching the show.
A lot of people
Awesome.
in chat. Make sure I'm on, are loving husbands. So you have a lot of fans.
Husband fans.
And a lot of
Love
fans
that.
of Cheeks. Sparklin' Tracy.
Sparkling Tracy, I know
Let's
her.
see, who else?
Nita Coke.
X
and
of
X
1013 mentions
X of
that you had
1013.
Nathan Fillion on
That's
Husbands.
right.
So more
That's
plugs
right,
for
the
Husbands.
Firefly connection.
Yeah.
There it
Look,
is.
in season 2, people should look for more sci-fi guest stars from shows that I've worked on.
Ooh, okay. We'll be
And
we'll be
you can also
watching.
check out Husbands on Roku. I'll give a little plug for Streaming Garage Roku channel. Husbands is also on there.
Awesome.
All right, tons of questions. Let's start with Ustream, the X of 1013. Jane said, is this true? You would love to be part of season 3 of Game of Thrones? Have you said that?
I have said I wish I was part of season 2, but you know what? Let's go on record right now and say I would love to be part of season 3.
There you go.
I think
you
we'd all
heard
know
it
that.
here
Okay.
first.
And let's
Start a petition.
Yeah.
Relating to that,
Yes.
do you have a favorite character or scene you would like to write for?
First, let's also beat the Christmas rush and say I'd like to be on season 4. Favorite character? Melisandre.
Ooh.
Oh, good one.
I'm fascinated by her in the books, and the big girl warrior, who I guess they're pronouncing Brienne. I listen to the audiobooks when I read the books. I have a very long commute right now, so instead of reading the books, I got the audiobooks. So I think of her as Brienne. Because in the audiobook she was Brienne. So I would love to write something for Brienne.
I want to say always Brienne. So I'll
Brienne on HBO.
There's a lot of conflicting ways
Yeah.
of pronouncing it, so I don't feel bad when I.
If I can even remember the name of the character's face to the name,
I know.
I'm good. I'm like,
Yeah,
all right,
you're close.
Yeah.
It's a win.
Yeah, she's fantastic, and Melisandre, but she's getting kind of shoved aside in this episode. Davos does not. He is really
I've
upset
got a feeling
about it.
she'll be back.
Oh, she has to be back. She has to be back.
I love seeing, leaping off the page of the book and then the great casting again. They nailed it again with the woman who's playing
every
Melisandre.
single person,
Yeah.
even the
Yeah.
extras.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, it's amazing.
Here's the thing. I'll just tell you guys.
Yeah.
All right.
When I went in to meet with HBO to sort of talk with them about whether or not it'd be a good fit for the show, they had me watch the pilot. So I was put in a room, quite a fancy little screening room, and they put in the disc of the pilot, and I was watching and I was thinking well, there's something really stylistically interesting about they're speaking really, really fast. Their voices aren't really high, but they're speaking really and then I gradually realized this is playing on the wrong speed.
No kidding.
Where do I go? What do I do? I lean out into the hallway. There's nobody there. So now I'm like wandering the halls of HBO. Who knows what I'm not supposed to be seeing?
Right.
Like going like, there's something wrong with the machine. But anyway, they figured it. I found someone and they came in and they fixed it. But that was sort of a side note. The main point of the story is that when I went in for the meeting, I was like, brilliant pilot. Air it immediately. That was perfect. And they said, oh, we're going to change like 80% of what you just saw. Or maybe it was 40%. It was some enormous number of stuff they were going to recast, recut. So that thing about the casting being note perfect, that's because they take the time, if something's not right, to fix it.
Wow.
Right.
Which is
nailed
an
it.
amazing luxury. Yeah.
Yes.
I think they also do a very good job of just casting it.
Yeah.
But that being willing
yeah.
to take the time and money to say, that didn't look right, that effect's not right, that person's not right. I know as a producer how hard that is, what a backbone it takes when you've got it on film and it's good enough to say good enough isn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
They're really, really good.
Wow, that's really impressive. I'm even more impressed. I mean, it's just... It's so interesting because I think when you have such a strong fan base that have read books, they tend to be very vocal about what they don't like. And
of course, then you're shooting in the dark. Like, who knows if my Melisandre looks like your Melisandre? And it just because one executive goes, that's exactly what I pictured. Like, everybody else could say, like, it's not. And then they all could all have totally different pictures. So how do you know that you've captured the person? That awful thing about Rue in Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Where people who hadn't read the book carefully were angry because they cast an African-American girl.
Yeah.
And it's like, I read the book carefully. She's exactly what I expected, and I loved her.
Yeah.
And when I saw all those people tweeting, it's like this is a good example of everybody having a different picture in their head. But dudes, you're wrong.
Yeah. Read more careful.
Yeah.
Are there more questions?
There are a lot more questions.
Awesome.
Okay.
Let's roll.
Blythe from YouTube chat room. Hi. I was wondering how you felt about the portrayal of women in Game of Thrones.
Really good. I feel really good about it. Because I think we are at the stage now where not all women have to be paragons. This is an important thing, where there's enough women on TV in strong parts that help turn the story, that drive the story, that they no longer all have to be good guys. So the fact that Cersei is turning out to be perhaps not such a good leader is fascinating and wonderful, because she is being venal and petty and power hungry in all the ways that we traditionally see men being bad leaders in this sort of drama. And so I tend to view that as great progress. It's not that like, oh look, they're showing that a woman gets in control and she can't handle it. No, they're showing that some women can't handle power in exactly the same way that some men can't handle power.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any step forward if we have every woman who's depicted as being in power being great at it. That's just not realistic.
Yeah,
some people are assholes.
Yeah, and she's a big asshole.
She is of everybody. I really like this scene in this episode too of Brienne and Catelyn in the woods alone together.
Yes.
She's the protector. She is the knight.
Yes.
She is making sure Catelyn gets there safe. I really enjoyed that they did that. It felt very natural. It felt, again, similar to...
And a mutual promise.
I wouldn't trust her.
I really
She
enjoyed
didn't
that.
protect him very well.
How would you protect from a
Look, I'm just saying.
shadow baby?
She still died.
How would you
Whatever.
protect?
Still died.
Okay.
I'm saying she didn't do her job.
She loves Renly, perhaps fruitlessly, but she loves Renly. She would have done anything.
Yeah.
And that's any scene of the type you're talking about. Two women talking alone in a scene without a man there, and they're not talking about did he catch your eye? Like doing a boy talk.
Yeah.
That passes the Bechdel test, which is a very hard thing to do. That not a lot of dramas. I mean, it's not. It shouldn't be hard to do.
Well,
but
in
it
your
is
episode,
remarkably rare.
You see Sansa. You know, in that scene takes on such a more sinister feeling once you watch the whole season.
Yeah.
Of him coming in, and it just made my skin crawl. Him giving her the necklace, and she's starting to act more like a southerner, and kind of very easily giving up her northern roots. And I think you have to have that character as a foil to the other, because she's trying to act how she read in the books, and she's trying to act what she thinks is right.
I think Sansa is extremely identifiable with. Maybe It's funny when you said Southerner, because my first thought was Southern U.S. and
King's Landing Southerner.
Well, no, but I think there may be something there. I think there's something in her as Scarlett O'Hara. That there's something where, like, what a great seminal female character, but also a very shallow one who put herself first and didn't always know what to do and found her strength. And so, again, not every female character has to start out strong.
Survivor. Yeah, and she is, I mean,
as being a survivor,
and that's where she's really
a valuable skill.
Absolutely, she's getting her. What's interesting about the characters in Game of Thrones, because the narratives are so strong and so long.
Right.
Right. So you traditionally audiences make up their mind on somebody.
Right.
And then they want to count on that person being that.
Right.
And what makes the show more interesting, and also the audience maybe a little uncomfortable, is that somebody you used to maybe hate, you start identifying with.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody you really like, and somebody, oh man. Well, let's say Sansa was annoying for people because she was, she's going through hell right now.
Right.
Yeah,
people have empathy.
Right, and keep your eye on Jamie Lannister. I could see that guy getting to be a little more likable.
He has the smile to make you like him more.
What else we got, Mike?
Mo Shund asks, you're not going to answer this, are the two guys still going to be married in season 2 of Husbands? You going to give away any teasers, anything?
Oh, I can tell him that.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. We are a show about a young marriage.
Excellent.
So
there you go.
It is a show. The little tagline is they're doing it wrong. That's their right.
Right.
I like
and
that.
that has turned out to be so valuable for us to keep that in mind as we're writing more scenes for them, because it's the heart of the show. Shows about young marriages are about them making every mistake in the book, but blundering their way through it because the marriage is strong enough and the bond is strong enough that it overcomes all those problems. So I would absolutely, I would guess that they would stay married.
Yay! Buying 3000. What do you think of the portrayal of the Baratheon brothers, in particular Renly's relative small stature compared to young Robert and Stannis' meekness? Not just to Jane, but to everybody.
Yeah, because I'm not sure I feel that qualified to speak on Baratheons at
what the question is?
Stature?
How the size?
Small stature compared to young Robert and Stannis' meekness.
They're saying Robert Baratheon was this, big hulk of a strong guy.
And
Stannis
with his brothers are so
sort
of weak.
Well, in the book, I always sort of pictured Stannis a little bigger.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
actually, he's the one character that definitely I was like, oh, that is so far out.
But I love the portrayal of him by the actor who's playing on the show. I kind of always pictured him as just like Robert. Like Robert, obviously the one we've seen in television and in the books, is a big fat guy, but he used to be the guy who carried the Warhammer.
Yeah. Right.
That just he took down Rhaegar.
Yeah. And I think that also Robert has been kind of he's basically bankrupt the kingdom, and you could see that in his stature. He just eats and drinks and kind of whores around. Yeah. Whereas Renly and Stannis haven't really done that because they're not even there. I mean, they're not even in King's Landing. They weren't named the Hand of the King. They were.
Well, Renly was there, and he left.
Yeah, and he left. Yeah. And I think that brothers can be of different stature.
It's true.
However, there is a lot laid on the strength of that genetic line that you can look at someone and know if they're Robert's son or not.
Absolutely. The seed is strong.
So that would suggest that there should be a great uniformity of look between the three brothers.
I think the person might be thinking about the difference in the visual stature on this TV show. If you read the books, they say that Renly always reminded everyone that ran into him said, "You look like
Robert."
Robert when he was your age. Yeah. You just look like him. You look like
and so maybe Robert was smaller, and then
Robert must have been. Yeah, it was kingship that made him so corpulent, and the other two didn't have that happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think Stannis is probably of similar height. He's just stronger rather than fat.
But this is a problem you end up in with casting, where you go like, this person looks exactly like what we want, but they are 73% of the actor that this other person is, who doesn't quite have the look. You got to go for the better actor.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And I think the actor who played Renly just nailed it.
I thought he was even better this season than he was last season. I was really, really looking forward to see how that would be portrayed, and I think he just hit it out of the park.
You have a scene with Renly and Robert in the Golden Crown episode where they're in the woods and boar hunting.
Right.
And, Renly is a little whiny almost, and he's very rude to Robert, and he's kind of like, he's not very likable, and he's just he's kind of rolling his eyes, and Robert snaps back at him, and you might be my brother, but I'm the king, kind of a.
I don't think that was in my draft. I think that must have been added by the guys. That's one of those things where looking ahead, you go like, gee, it'd be good to go on that boar hunt and see this interaction. Whereas I think in my draft that was sort of skipped. That he was off hunting the boar and sort of absent. But again, Renly is a character who I think he really comes into his own in second season. Yeah. Definitely.
He's a little more kind of he's whiny because he feels like his rights haven't been. Or his stature hasn't been appropriately acknowledged by people, and then he gets this opportunity to be, and he's arrogant. I mean, that scene with him and Stannis when Catelyn tries to get them to make peace, he's just like, no, I'm a badass. I have way more people than you. I have ships. Like, there's no chance.
The clear difference is confidence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's arrogant versus kind of whiny. Yeah. So I like that transition.
Do we have any other specific questions for Jane?
Yeah, let's relate that to you're talking about casting. X of 1013 wants to know, can you picture Cheeks as a character on Game of Thrones? And there is something that Elaine said that everybody booed. So let's see what you say, and if the whole chat room will boo you.
Well, the thing is, because he is so bright and sprightly and funny, my mind goes to Jester, which may be what you said that got booed. I don't know.
That did not get booed.
Okay.
Elaine said Joffrey. I think because of the blonde hair, because of the look,
Well, he can certainly do bitchy.
That's what I'm saying.
But, Cheeks can do everything. I am constantly amazed by his breadth of ability that he can do. Like, people sort of go, oh, well, Cheeks sort of does that one cheeky thing. And it's like, no, see, he's always Cheeks. But Cheeks goes from, like, here to here. There's a lot more than people think. So I could see him as a spoiled, potentially despotic young prince.
Sure.
Absolutely. I could see him as the funny and carefree jester. I could see him as all sorts of things. I could see him selling with a little push cart selling clams in Bravos or whatever.
A couple more. By the way, according to NGSVE, the heart is made from gummy bear material.
Oh.
And a couple of other people said that as well.
Sweet.
I wonder if it was filled with fake blood, because when she bites
Probably,
it,
yeah. But
that stuff is nasty.
No, you can get the minty flavored one.
It's still nasty.
Minty
I was a
flavored.
zombie once. It was horrible.
Couldn't it be some sort of raspberry jelly?
Two more.
That makes it a little more palatable as you watch it.
Two more questions. About Once Upon a Time, Blythe wants to know, what are we expecting to see in the finale this season? You can just get that.
So here's how the show ends.
Here's how it's going to work.
Okay. As you know, this is a show all about spoilers. Just kidding.
You're going to see everything in this finale. Everything that you're hoping to see, you're going to see, and then you're going to see 20% more you didn't even know you wanted to see, and then you're going to feel like, well, all my questions have been answered, and then you'll suddenly realize, like, oh no, now there's 5 new questions.
Ooh, that's a great answer.
Yeah. This is one of the most satisfying, complete. It's like a big steak dinner. Like, you're gonna leave like I'm full, but I know I want to go back there again next year for more steak.
And steak is good, people.
No, it's not. Steak's bad.
I like steak.
Vegetarian.
Oh, okay.
This is a great question. We'll do this one last one, I think, from the chat room. From NGSVE, who gave us that knowing what the heart was made of. Is there any favorite show from the past that you would have liked to write an episode for?
I got my start trying to write. Didn't get my start. When I was a kid, I tried to write an episode of MASH, just on spec, just writing it, and I would at my typewriter. Which for you youngsters out there was like a computer.
With a paper screen.
Yeah.
Paper screen.
Paper screen sounds fantastic.
That's great.
It's a great production company name. Paper screen.
It is.
Oh.
Did I just invent something?
I would have loved to write for MASH. I would have loved to write for Lou Grant, a great favorite of mine. I would have loved to write for Perfect Strangers and Love Boat and all those shows that I grew up watching.
As a kid, how did you know what a spec was? Like, see, I write for TV and I've written for a bunch of shows. And as a kid, I know I loved Johnny Carson. I knew I loved Letterman, but I never went, I'm going to write jokes for them. It never occurred to me I could.
Right.
But you knew that? You just had a feeling
there was an interview in like the TV section of the newspaper with one of the writers on MASH, and she was talking about people sending in spec scripts, aspiring writers sending in spec scripts, and I was like, okay, so there's a way to do it.
Yeah.
So I knew that's what I wanted to do. And in college, I found out you actually could fax jokes to Jay Leno.
Yes.
I did a lot of
Were you a faxer?
Yeah, but he never picked it up.
Oh, I ran when I was intern at Leno. I ran that. I was the one who got all the faxes in, and then I was also a faxer at Leno.
Oh my God! If you had kept them all, I
probably had
something I faxed.
But no, Jane. Oh, that's funny. And I'll end on this. This relates very well. BJ Mac 13. Not a question, but I want to say, Jane, you're one of the best TV writers out there, and you've inspired me to become a film and television writer. Thank you.
Oh, good cut!
What do you do when you hear that, though? Because when people tell me I want to go on TV, I'm like, no, don't.
Oh no, it's the
Your
best
parents
job
are
in
gonna
the
kill
world.
you. Yeah, if you get a job.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Yeah.
That's great.
Assuming you get a job, it is the best job in the world.
Awesome.
But you know what? Any job that you don't get is a job that you don't have. So it might as well be this one.
Hey. You know, I think it was Wayne Gretzky who said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Right?
All right.
Right.
All right.
Well,
that was a fantastic episode. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us.
Thank
It was a
you.
real honor to have you here. And yeah, we can't wait to go home, watch that, and we'll be watching for it at some point.
it is
possibly this summer.
husbandstheseries.com. Go there, watch it, and kick in more money in Kickstarter, will you? Huh?
Finale of Once Upon a Time, May 13th.
Yeah, May 13th.
May 13th, season 2.
Finale.
Yeah.
The number one drama on television?
I
Network
think it's
television?
also on Hulu. If you've missed it, you can catch up with all
I
episodes.
think if you
on
just go to
Hulu.
abc.com, you'll be
abc.com.
directed to it. So there's an episode tonight. You guys, it's the antepenultimate episode tonight. Then next week is penultimate, and then the last week is ultimate.
3 more episodes. 3 episodes left. So go catch up on Hulu if you haven't seen it. And thank you so much.
Yeah.
We will see you guys all next week.
See you next week on Stupid for Game of